Mayor, Council, good afternoon. I'm Gerald Dinas, for you that don't know me. I just got a couple things I wanted to review regarding, I hear they've been approved for on the last budget. I've done over 1,000 kilometers last year on an e-bike. Calgary, High River, of course, Fernie, Kimberley, Cranbrook, Black Diamond, Turner Valley, and I've yet to see but one little bicycle repair station. Not even close to $15,000 that was awarded in the budget. And that was out in between Kimberley and Cranbrook, when you are out in the middle of nowhere, not in a town. So I just find that a little bit strange, and I do bicycle rebuilds, frame up, just for a hobby. My tools might add up to $500 for a frame up rebuild. So I mean, there's a lot of on the table, you might say, from $500 to $15,000. So on that note too, as you know, tools are very highly demanded. For people like to nab them, take them home, whatever they do with them. But when I was in my working day, I mean, it was just ongoing tools. So if you do put them up, how long are they going to be there? Never mind the weather that's going to be on them tools. They're going to be destroyed in no time. But I don't think the weather's going to get them first. So that's my comment on all the tools. And the other one is on the $75,000 sunshade. I've talked to a few people on that, and the main comment, the first thing out of their mouth is, I take an umbrella. If you put up a sunshade in one park, how about the other park over by the high school? I think then they're en route to have the second sunshade. You could open up something that you can't say no to down the road, because you've already got a $75,000 sunshade approved. So I'll leave you with that today. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald. I think there was, when we were doing these budget, both of those numbers got brought up a couple of times, and the money was allocated for various reasons, but especially the sunshades. I think, Michael, you were talking a lot about that a $75,000 sunshade would be something extraordinary. Be quite the structure to blow that much money on it. So I think we've made staff very aware, and even when I told my wife that, she jumped on Google and found a couple off of Kijiji, or not Kijiji, but one of those big buying, not Etsy, but one of them other things. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like $5,000, get a really, really nice one.
Open up, steal one, 10 by 12 for $1,500.
Exactly. So, yeah. Budget amount, but what the reality is going to be at the end of the day will be, Chris and everybody's very aware. As far as the bicycle repair stations, I think, I share the same, what you're saying, $15,000. I don't know, Chris, do you have any ideas? Like, I don't know what a bicycle repair station looks like. I do know, like on ski hills, when you've got your little, there's 2 or 3 screwdrivers and a pair of pliers on there. That's.
Yes, certainly everything is secured. They're attached with cables and chains. They include a pump, have to be mounted on a concrete sonotube, because they're all standalone. They have a bike clamp on it as well, that people can clamp their bikes on to do their maintenance. And it comes with standard tools, a screwdriver, Allen keys, that type of thing. There's only about 4 tools that they kind of contain within, but they're all on secure stainless steel cords that are attached to the actual station.
And how many stations are we planning with this 15,000?
I believe there was 2, one for the bike park and one for over by the existing skateboard park.
Okay.
And that was based upon actual quotes.
Based on the quotes. It's about $7,500 a piece.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can review that as well. Thanks, Gerald. Appreciate it. Anybody else? We'll move on. First item of business, the recycling depot services contract.
Okay, sorry, it's my first time. Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm Nicole. I'm Manager of Public Works. Peter and I are here to present the Recycling Depot Services Contract Award, and we're asking for a request for decision. This came about because our current contract is expiring, and we had 9 responses that were received. We would like to award a 2-year contract for this services to Consolidated Environmental Solutions, which is approximately $118,000 per year. This is excluding GST, and with the understanding that the market pricing for their recycled products will fluctuate throughout the contract. Through the evaluation process, there was some financial variances for haul rates, which between Consolidated and the other vendors really stood out, and that's why one of the reasons why we chose to go with Consolidated. Also, too, as part of the RFP, it was stipulated that the bin openings had to be a certain size so that they would be more user-friendly for the town residents, which is something that Consolidated will provide as well. And I was curious if you had any questions.
Will we be able to get a piece of cardboard through the hole?
Yes, yes, you
That
will.
was the main.
Yeah.
That was the main issue with us doing it. That was the main point, was to make sure that they had a wide enough door. So basically, it'll be like our mixed paper doors, the blue bins, to have the fair size one there. That's what we're getting now. So.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. My question is, the range of that you received for the RFPs is really quite a range. So going with the most affordable choice is always nice for the bottom line, but did you feel that through the proposal that you received sort of a comparable level of service from each of them? Like, why would there be such a wide gap? Was it just the haul rates, or was there something else that stood out?
Haul rates were one of the main issues. Some of them, their haul rates were out to lunch. They were massive. They just threw a contract in to throw a contract in. A lot of the bigger companies, that's what they seem to do. They want to draw us in, so there, and everybody else, like, its market price was pretty much the same with everything with the product. So it basically, it was based off the haul rate more than anything. So.
Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Thanks, guys, for the presentation, the recommendation. My question is regarding the market pricing piece and the fluctuation that can happen there. Historically, have we experienced some pretty wild swings? And then the second question to that is, with our recycling materials, how much is not captured in return of dollars on those materials because of things like contamination, people putting things in the wrong bins, and the recycler potentially saying, you know, it's a spoiled bin, we can't recycle it, it just goes to waste, because my understanding is that kind of stuff happens.
So with the
Sorry, Nicole.
Thank you. With the sorry. With the market pricing, it doesn't necessarily fluctuate drastically, but what we found during the review process, the evaluation process, was that Consolidated actually offered 4 of the 5 products to be rebated. Is that correct? Whereas the other folks, the other vendors, didn't provide as much as that, and then even the ones that were close were still like way under. So we felt that Consolidated had the best market pricing for that particular day. So we don't anticipate that it'll go up and down too much. Did you want to speak to the?
So to the contamination part of it, that is actually going by the wayside. It's the way that they've got the MRF set up now, that basically you dump stuff in, it sorts it there, right? So we used to have that contamination. That's why we changed our mixed plastics and got because anybody throws a black garbage bag in, they were throwing the whole bin out on us, right? So we're gonna still kind of keep that same thing going, so we don't have those bags in there, and eliminate that contamination that they say that's in there, right? So, but like I say, the way that the MRFs are set up now, the cross contamination or the contamination is not there as much, because they have 8 conveyor belts going out on just a plastic alone, right? So it sorts itself. So.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just, my council members will probably attest, I can be a little bit anal retentive. And I go to recycling and I see the bin that says clear glass, and people invariably put amber glass or dark glass in there, and it makes me twitch. And I'm like, if it costs us money, then we should have a better education program for our residents on what bin is used for what. To me, it's pretty straightforward, but maybe we're not communicating it in the right way to all people, so, but.
Yeah,
thanks.
and we're trying that. Like we try different things for that. The glass is a prime example, but they are taking the glass. We're allowed up to a percentage of dark glass in there, and that's the idea of the guys running the recycle center, is to pick that stuff out before the bins go out, right? So, yeah.
I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council award a 2-year contract for the recycling depot services to Consolidated Environmental Solutions, Inc. for approximately $188,118.50 per year, excluding GST, with the understanding that the market pricing for our recycled products will fluctuate throughout the term of the contract, and the council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the recycled depot services contract with Consolidated Environmental Solutions, Inc.
Whoa, that's a lot, but I'll give you that motion.
Thanks. I won't ask you to repeat it. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Peter. Asset management policy update, Diana.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am here to present the Asset Management Policy Update. The Asset Management Policy was approved by Council in 2016 and is now due for an update. The intent of the updated policy is to align the town's current to align the town around the shared understanding of the importance of asset management. For a municipality, asset management is about sustainable managing its assets and infrastructure to achieve strategic objectives for providing quality service for our residents. This involves aligning physical infrastructure, activities, and operations with strategic objectives, coordinating activities across the organization to real value, managing assets to optimize their life cycle management, and ensuring that the activities across our organization is intended to deliver the quality services for risk management, and to make sure that the town is in a position to, if there is grants available, we are in a better position to act on those. That being said, at this time, administration is asking council to adopt the asset management policy as presented today.
Thanks, Diana. Any questions from council? The old asset management thing is talked about constantly, so everybody's probably up to speed on it. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council adopt the asset management policy as presented, and the council direct administration to advance the implementation of the policy directions and establish the asset management team so that the direction of the policy can be integrated into the organizational priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have my motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Diana. We're still doing this, eh, Kaylee? Okay, High Country Drive intersection.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So before you, we have High Country Drive and Highview Gate intersection upgrade. As we are all aware, we did a temporary trial last summer, and we had that installed, and it's currently installed as is right now, with the only tweak being that we removed the speed cushions. It is spring, we're getting close to springtime, and so we do need to kind of have an understanding as to where we're going to go next. So before you is a report and recommendation around how to proceed with a permanent design, if that is what council desires going forward. A bit of a schedule on how we get there and what that looks like. The design options that were attached to the package were a permanent version of what we see out there, being option 1. You'll see that option 1 had an A and a B. The only difference between the two of those was the golf course crossing and how we would get from golf course land to the crossing and across the road and then back onto golf course land. That ultimately would be flushed out during consultation with golf course, because of course we'd have to make sure that whatever option we went forward with made sense for the actual maintenance equipment, because we learned quite a bit through the temporary process about the maintenance equipment and how often the golf course is crossing High Country Drive to ensure that they're keeping the quality and conditions of the golf course on that north stretch. And then the other options that were put forward were turning the intersection back to what it was, no stop signs, just if exactly how it was previously built, or removing the extended corners and leaving it as a 4-way stop sign, or ultimately going to that roundabout that we had originally discussed right back from the beginning. And so there were some prices associated with a couple of them. Yeah, and that's where we're at right now. We have completed public consultation in the form of the trial, so we've received a lot of feedback. Council's had an opportunity to go through that feedback, and I'm more than happy to review that if council wishes to review or have any further questions on that component, but ultimately the public consultation was through that trial. Is there any questions I can answer?
There'll be questions, whether you can answer them or not. It's going to be.
I will do my best.
You're pretty
I always
well
put my best
versed in
foot
this
forward.
thing right by now. Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. So just looking at the design, my concern with the bump out curbs is right now they have posts that stick up, so it's very obvious. On McLeod Trail by the dental office, that one had to be removed because everybody kept hitting it, or it was just weird. Is this going to be better or any different? Because I feel that without those posts sticking up, these curbs are just going to be jumped by cars.
Yeah.
And not
so-
on purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, we have just the temporary boulevards or the bullards out there with all the posts on them that are allowing people to kind of know where they are at, because they are different than what is permanently constructed. So it does allow us the opportunity to kind of curb and change some of that driving experience in that intersection to kind of preemptively get people driving, understanding that those are the curbs. With that said, when it's permanently built, there would be landscaping also in those boulevards. It wouldn't be just all straight hard surfaces. So we have kind of curbed and given that pre-training on how to drive that intersection with the extended curbs, having that TCC out there for at least, hopefully a year.
Okay.
And the difference, going back to the dental office there, Jenny, the reason why that was pulled back, it wasn't removed. That thing had actually been pulled back twice. from what you saw when it was actually constructed the first time, it was actually in place to be even further out. So the problem that we had, and the reason why it was done that is because in 30 years, when the roundabout at Sobeys is constructed, that this would have lined people up, but we'd have been having to screw around for 30 years waiting for the new roundabout to come in. We pulled it back just because it was so goofy in how far you had to come out. That's why it was pulled back, but it wasn't eliminated. It was just pulled back so that the proper turn that you would normally take to line up with how the intersection actually is. That's why. So on this one, on option 1A, you know, yes, landscaping, but also there's going to be stop signs sitting there too that are going to be a pole that it's going to delineate where that bump out is as well. So,
And there are options, and you'll see them in some of the municipalities where they do have that similar concern, is they would put up bollards on, say, where the pedestrians are, so where the pedestrian on either side of the ramp, to kind of protect that if the curb were to be jumped, that the bollard would be there to protect the pedestrian that would be standing out there waiting to cross. So that is an option that could be definitely evaluated and reviewed during the detailed design.
put a planter. Make it nice. Michael?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Thanks, Kaylee. Appreciate your frequent return and information on this topic. I guess this one's less a question for you, Kaylee, as it is to council. Question or open for comment. The feedback that we received seemingly was 98 respondents, which does not compromise the entire residency of the Northwest. So I'm a little skeptical on the feedback, but I also want to listen to it. And it's a mixed bag. If you look at the four-way stop, people are saying, okay, we can deal with the four-way stop. If we look at the bump outs, it's a basic absolute no. We don't want to see bump outs. So in reviewing this repeatedly as we have and looking at the feedback and going, well, Michael has an opinion. Michael likes what he likes and thinks what he thinks. But I don't represent myself. I didn't put myself in this seat. The people of High River did. So if they're telling me they don't want bump outs, that's the way I'm kind of leaning. That doesn't mean sometimes we make a decision that goes against the grain, because we might have a whole bunch of other information that the public doesn't have. But being that it's a public roadway and whatnot, I'm putting some weight behind the feedback, even though the representative sample is so small. So I'm kind of throwing that at council to see what they think of the feedback piece that has been here. And then it also comes down to the projected cost of what this project is. If we were to go, let's call it full scale, we do bump outs and we do all that kind of stuff, and we do some realigning for the golf course and for the golf carts and whatnot. I think we're $450,000 or so. Is that the highest and best use and the biggest priority we have right now to spend $450,000 on? So personally, I live in the Northwest. I live on High Country Drive in what I call the divot, right across from the Catholic high school. So I'm a little bit removed from the traffic, but I also see the traffic that comes through the 30-kilometer-an-hour zone that they're not doing 30. So speed and control is important to me, so that's why I'm supporting these ideas, but also listening to what the public has to say. But coming back to the money, is there other things that we need prior to fixing this roadway? Not saying that's yes or no, but I'm just putting it out to the rest of council. I happened to pull up to the library the other night, taking some books back because my wife is an avid reader, and that was in the evening. And I pulled up, and I know we have lights somewhere in the budget to put some lights out in front of the library, but it's damn dark. And I would, if I was going to do something right now at this point, I'd put lights there so that when people go and patronize the library, especially through the winter months, it's darker for longer, it's icy, it's snowy, all those things. There are some other things I would look at and go, I'd probably spend money this versus that. So really not for you, Kaylee. You've given us all the information in the world. It's just some I guess, my food for thought to the rest of council on how we might talk about this and how we might roll it forward. It's definitely not a priority for me to get done this summer, this spring. I'm not putting you and the pedal to the metal, so to speak, to get it done. I could defer this off to another time, but I guess that's my thoughts, guys and gals.
It's good comments, Michael. My question is if we're going to do something on High Country Drive, is this the priority one location? Or should we be putting this up at the school? I know we've had feedback from the school saying, hey, when you're done that one, we'd love one up here too, to slow things down. Can you give me any?
That's a valid comment, and that kind of circles back to where we were discussing about, taking a look at the corridor as a whole, holistically. What would make sense, and what do we want that corridor to be as a whole, so that when we do start doing these intersection upgrades, that they are a consistent flow through all of them, and then we can look at how do we want to prioritize them based on the needs at each of the individual intersections. So that is an option for council to consider, is doing a corridor study rather than doing anything, because the temporary TCC curbs really can stay out there. It's not like they have a time frame that we need to give them back or that we need to relocate them somewhere else, because we don't have them reassigned anywhere at this point. If council would wish to leave them out there and continue to let the intersection operate as a temporary scenario and complete a corridor study.
Yeah, I think, we could do a corridor study. I don't know that it changes, because that corridor study is going to deal with these intersections as well.
It would evaluate all the intersections,
Right.
all their usages, and all the challenges or the different users that are at the intersections, because we do have very different users at each of the intersections.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go down to where the spray park is and the pump track, and we've got different user groups up there and different expectations of what they're looking for safety around their intersections and the movement of traffic through those intersections. So we would get an opportunity to make sure that whatever we were selecting would make sense for the corridor as a whole. And then and then tweaking them obviously per intersection and per need of that intersection.
I need to hear from other councillors. I got nobody on the list, but I need you to jump in here to help my club. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Thank you, Councillor Nychuk. I think those are well thought out pieces, and I agree. I think the corridor piece is become an important piece as we've gone through this exercise on this particular one. I do think that we haven't. I know we've involved the golf course to some degree on what this should look like. It was in response to an initial ask from them that we started this whole process. Whether the outcome was exactly as anticipated, well, that may not be the case, but here we are. So if we're looking at doing something for that whole space, I agree. That blind corner coming into the splash park, I've had children run out in front of me. They're not paying attention. They're on bikes. They're on their way home or they're on their way there, and they're completely oblivious. And it is a blind corner that you're coming around there. I too have, I'm close to the high school, and I see it almost daily that people just don't slow down going through there. Trying to get into the back parking lot at the school, you've got traffic here, traffic here, traffic here. You're turning left across, there's a median right there. Like, that whole area is in need of, I think when it was designed to be a nice wide boulevard, but I think that the course of time and the activity and growth that's happened in there hasn't kept pace with the usage. And so, when you get, what did we say, it was 6,500 cars a day that go down High Country Drive during the school season, that's a significant number of cars. And there's a lot of little people trying to get to and from bus stops and trying to get to the playground and trying to get to the splash park and the pump track and the playground that's over there. So I do think that maybe we need to take another look at this as a whole rather than just individual, and come up with a strategy that maximizes our resources. There you go. Thank you.
This splash park, the pump track, that whole area is very dangerous for kids jumping out of the cars. I've witnessed it when the kids have been up there and watching other little kids just try to dart across to those houses, and they don't look, and it's on a corner, so it's hard for drivers to be on the ball too. It's big. So, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share the sentiments of Councillor Nychuk and Councillor Smith. It's a very, very hefty sum of money to put in one intersection. Not knowing the full cost of a study, obviously the whole road, we need to look at that. We're really far away from the original ask when this came to be in May of 2022. I'm not in favor of spending that kind of money on this project at this time. There are a lot of other things that we need to do. I'm not saying that we don't have to do something about the intersection, but not for that kind of money at this point.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll just go back to is what we got there accomplishing what we set out to do originally. Is it slowing the traffic down? I don't live in the Northwest. I get up there once a month kind of thing, so I don't really have a good handle on what it's doing. So people who live up there, can they tell me, is it doing what we set out to do originally? And if it is, if it's accomplishing what we needed to do, then I'd be more than happy to do a full study as opposed to spending $450 on one intersection. Thank you.
I don't live up there, but for the intersection portion itself, we do have stop signs. So it is stopping traffic. Now, is it going to slow it down and coming up to the intersection or proceeding through the intersection? That is behavior based, and that's something that's very challenging to control. Will it provide some of the, where we're seeing it's making it so bringing some visibility to the intersection where we don't have people parking directly right up at the intersection, provides a little bit more visibility. We don't have a case where now if you're traveling down High Country Drive and someone goes to put their left-hand signal and to turn left, they don't have the opportunity now to go into the right lane and kind of go around that scenario. So we are preventing behavior choices like that with the setup. But I myself don't live in front of it. I don't travel through it on a regular basis. I go up to observe it. So I would have to leave that to if there's anyone on council that wants to comment to the living up there and traveling and maneuvering through it.
I can comment. I have a front row seat, and I'm here to tell you that most people stop. Some people do not. Some people do a rolling version of their stop. What has been successful is it has slowed traffic down. I would say it doesn't hurt that there's also a chunk of pavement that's a little further up that has to be repaved in the spring, so that also keeps people going a little slower in that little immediate stretch. Michael would probably agree with me on that. And I think that the biggest concern for me in all of this was always for the children that are getting on and off the bus right there, because at certain points of the day, at 8 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, you cannot see with the sun hitting you square in the blinders at 8 in the morning going east and 4 in the afternoon going west. And if nothing else, I think that there's been greater awareness that there are children present. So for me, that's been probably the biggest success in all of this. But I do see people of various states of speed, whether they stop fully or they at least slow down and acknowledge that there is a change in traffic there. So that's what I can tell you.
Thanks, Kelly. Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Actually, I'm going to agree with Kelly. I live farther up, but don't take it quite as often. But it definitely, anytime I've gone through, I feel it has slowed the traffic. I know there's been concerns about people sort of revving their engines past it after the fact, but they only have a certain stretch to get to the next stop sign. One of my questions is, so we haven't consulted the golf course on new design ideas or if they would even work?
We would have to consult with them on building something permanent in place and ensuring that was going to make sense, because they would lead to work on their side of the property line that we would have to consult with them to make sure they're okay with and would make sense for them as a business and for their operational duties that they have to do and moving all the equipment and for their staff.
Absolutely. I find it hard to make a decision because that is part of that intersection without knowing if that's something even feasible for them or if it would work. I find it tough to make a decision with an unknown like that.
I would think, I don't see the barrier in coming to some form of resolution. I mean, there's not really, we're not building an overpass, we're not building an underpass. Like, we are doing something on the surface. There would be a resolution. We would just have to come to the table and make sure that it made sense for their equipment. And sometimes it's a matter of watching the equipment operate. Like, I was put into a golf cart and driven across there by the golf course to show that while, yes, some people could do it, and I was in a golf cart that could do it, not everyone operates a golf cart maybe as often as the individual who operate the golf cart. So you're going to have different levels of skills. And so that's what we have to take into consideration, is making sure that all levels of skills, even for their maintenance equipment, is going to make sense for maneuvering it from the south side to the north side. But that comes through consultation and working with them and seeing the equipment as well. Like, a lot of it, we didn't see the equipment until we were out there trying to set it up and trying to come to a resolution of, well, what does it look like in this temporary situation? What equipment do you have? Can you bring it here? Can we see it? Can we try to get it across the intersection? What works for today for the trial? And then again, it'll look very different. Well, now we're doing something permanent. What would it look like for permanent?
Councillor Walsh?
Thank you. With regards to traffic calming and whatnot, I am in the Northwest every day. When all of these things started to come up and the four-way stop was implemented, I go up to the light at the rodeo grounds and around the back way. It's a residential area. It's not a throughway. So as an effort to reduce traffic in a neighborhood, I go around. I'm at the far end. So traffic calming, when you make it inconvenient for people and they have to stop a bunch of times, they'll go around. So it is working. And for me, y'all know now it's working, right?
Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in agreement with doing that kind of a corridor study. Just, I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because I've born and raised here, and I've seen exactly what that road has done over its entire lifespan, because I was part of that whole area getting redeveloped. And I think we have a lot of, if we fix this, I think we're just going to shift some of the problems to other areas, right? And then we're going to be back where we are. I think it's worth taking and putting it through a lens of trying to figure out all the different pieces, and considering we keep adding things like the pump track and stuff like that, I think it's worth looking at what we're doing. So that's my voice.
Okay, I'll put a motion forward that council directs administration to return at a future meeting with options in relation to a full corridor improvement study on High Country Drive. Motion on floor. Any questions, comments? Michael? No? I already gave it. All right, all in favor? Carried. I got another motion. Next motion is that council directs administration to remove the temporary bump outs at the location of High Country Drive and Highview Gate immediately. Not gonna have a heart murmur over here, are you? You all right? Councillor Jones, question on the motion?
Would you be leaving the four-way stops?
No. I think it's, and the reason why is if we're doing the whole corridor study, then, to me, the bump outs, the four-way stop doesn't work because the signs, that's why the bump outs are primarily there, is to bring the signs out into view, because that street is so bloody wide that removing the bump outs, keeping the signs there, the signs are off to the side. I don't know. What's the point? I just think if we're doing the corridor study, let's clean this up. The bump outs are, the temporary blocks that we have are perfect, because now we can go, and if the corridor study looks at the pump track crossing, the spray park crossing, we can move those up there and try things out in that area as well with those things, right? That's why we bought them, that's why we own them, away we go, so. But I just think if we're doing this corridor study and we're gonna abandon doing any construction for at least probably the next 2 years on any of these intersections, why leave that there? They were there for temporary, and we know what the plans look like. We kind of have all that data now, so it's great. We've got some information, but I don't see any point if we're going to abandon this, why leave the temporary pieces? Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any value in installing a flashing light of some sort at this intersection as well as near the pump track? Everybody's clearly identified. We've got some people at risk in this area. Are there temporary things we should do or proceed with the study to, like, what's the timeline? Are we going to leave this road and all these people unprotected now?
Well, it's been unprotected for 20-some years, if that's the way you want to refer to it.
No, I
right?
understand
Like
that, but I'm just saying we've identified a problem. Is there anything we should do about those things in the meantime while we're looking at a complete corridor study?
I think you can bring that back with, that's why I've kind of opened it up. We won't be coming back just with the corridor study. I think
Okay.
staff can come back with options as to, you know, while we're doing the corridor study, this is something that you might want to look at. You know, the flashing lights, we don't have to decide that today. You're so sick and tired of this thing, aren't you? Yeah, you are. You got your head in both hands now, so I know you are. And I don't blame you.
I guess with removing it, you're removing a four-way stop, so we have to be very cautious with how we remove that, because that could set us up for a very dangerous situation in the sense that we've got a lot of people used to having a stop sign. So it will take time for us to put that in place for the removal of it, because we do need to follow very specific steps about removing stop signs. When we also remove all of it, which we can, it will, I just want to be clear, we're removing and bringing it back to its original state. So we will then be reinstating the same crosswalk for the golf carts to cross, because we have no other alternative for them. So I just want to make sure we're clear that this would be going back exactly how it was. We'll just have to proceed very, like I said, cautiously, and it won't happen immediately, is what I'm trying to say, to ensure that it's safe for the stop sign and the expectation around the stop, and making sure we're not running into putting drivers at risk. It's a process.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've just spent the last 6 months trying to re-establish a driving pattern, and I'm not sure I see the benefit at this point until we have a permanent solution we're ready to enforce in removing what's currently there now that this has been established. Maybe if the bump outs can be removed and you can still have the four-way stop, if that's maybe the middle ground, but I'm not in favor of removing the stop signs at this point. Now that we've established and gotten some of the traffic to slow down on that road, I'm afraid I don't think that's our best way forward here.
I have a question, Mayor Snodgrass. Is the concern that leaving the temporary scenario in place would have an impact on what the outcome of the corridor study would be?
No, my concern is that if we're abandoning this project, like if what you're saying is the way you believe, why don't we just build this thing then? If you believe in it that much, then let's just build the permanent solution and move on from this intersection and do the corridor study for the rest.
I'm not sure that that's
the temporary thing is aggravating to people. They don't know where it's going or what's going to stay, what's going to, you know, that's where I'm at, is that if we're going to abandon this and we're going to go to a full corridor study, then I'm pretty black and white with stuff, and then let's do that. That's just my opinion. You can vote the motion down. Council can vote against my motion.
I would suggest that if we're going to invest a sizable amount of resources in the whole corridor, it doesn't cost us anything at this point to leave it as is until we have the full strategy in place. And we have an established pattern of behavior for that intersection currently.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So the motion on the floor is to remove the temporary bump outs and stop signs. I'll add that in there just so that we're clear that at High Country Drive and Highview Gate intersection. So, Councillor Nychuk, did you have something? No? You good? So it's a yes or no, whether you want to remove all the temporary stuff, including stop signs, yes or no? Ready for the motion? Question? All in favor to remove the temporary bump outs and stop signs? Those opposed? My motion fails. Everything stays.
Okay.
And administration will return at a future meeting with options in relation to a full corridor study, however you're going to do that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
You thought this was going to end? We just made it like 10 times bigger. Councillor Nychuk?
I just want to say I appreciate where you were going with where you were going, Mr. Mayor, but I don't think this is an abandonment of the treatment of that intersection. I think that we all still want to see something happen. I think not only was the money a piece, but also some understanding of human capacity of what capital projects that administration has under their belt going into 2024. I just didn't want this to get also didn't want it to get rushed through, and perhaps not it getting the critical eye on that intersection, and then as the corridor study goes forward, that we're doing this in appropriate way, that we can have treatment all the way down the roadway should council decide to do things, let's say further west down High Country Drive. So, thank you.
Nope. Well done, council. Great conversation. Good decisions. Employee compensation, Sonia.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to present the employee compensation policy. As requested by Council, administration conducted a full review of the town's compensation program, and through that review, it was identified that a policy was required to highlight some of the town's compensation philosophies and also outline important compensation practices. The policy presented today provides a transparent, fair, and accountable framework to support the town's compensation program. The policy also provides clarity regarding how compensation decisions are made, meets all legislated requirements, and also supports our efforts to retain, attract, and motivate staff while balancing competing needs to honor our fiscal responsibility and stewardship of public funds. Administration recommends Council adopt the employee compensation policy presented today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Sonia. No, this is very much needed and provides the clarity that we've all asked questions around as to how, in our little town of High River, how we attract and retain top-level staff, because regardless of how big our town is, the residents, developers, businesses, they all demand that we have top-level staff when they come in with questions and need answers and development and building permits and all this other stuff. So I think this is a great way to keep those like the city of Calgary from easily just offering more money to poach employees. So, Councillor Kinghorn?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Yes, I really like the way you put in that paragraph about the cost of living increases, giving council that flexibility to deal with it and do what's best for our ratepayers. Well done. Thank you.
Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Yeah, again, just appreciation from my seat, through to, from Chris through to you, Sonia, and your team. Since I've been on council, we've been asking for a review of this and something different that was good for the employees and good for us as an organization. And yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to finally have this in front of us, so thank you.
No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council adopt the employee compensation policy POL 0090.
Yeah, my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Sonia. Disposal of structures located at 54600 88th Street East. Riley.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The property in question was purchased in 2019 as part of the Southwest Dyke project. There is a house on it. Parts of the land have been declared as needed for floodway, which is why it was purchased for the project. And we're at a point now where we'd like to move forward with removal of the structure and fulfilling the terms of the grant. We're going to offer it for sale should someone want to purchase the building. And if no one is interested, we will tear it down and dispose of it and return that land to a floodable type of condition. Any questions?
Thanks, Riley. Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Mike, so I was really with you there on taking the building down, and then you said return it to a floodable area. What do you mean by that? Like, can we do something with that where somebody's seeding it and harvesting, put canola in it or something? I mean, it's a big schwack of land out there.
Yes, what we're going to do with it, I guess, is still
up in the air?
Still up in the air.
Okay.
I think in the meantime, we would just let it be used as agricultural land. There is long-term, there could be some options with making it a floodway, returning it to some sort of riparian area or ER, but right now it would just return to agricultural usage and we would move forward.
So you'll bring that back to council if there's any change?
I think we'll have to have a larger conversation with all the properties once we kind of get this all sorted. We're still having to deal with some land purchases associated with Southwest Dyke, and so once we have that understood, I would expect we would have to return and have that conversation.
Okay, fair enough. What's a red shower worth?
Oh.
Nothing. My sanity. You're gonna buy it for me. Yeah.
If you buy it, you have to take the whole building with you.
Try convincing Lindsay that matches anything in our house, and I might purchase it, but I'm not worried about it. So most of this property is already being farmed as well, right? We lease it out and it's being farmed, so. No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, just a really quick question. Like, is it, this pictures suggest that the house is not exactly, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder if somebody wants to purchase it, but is it worth the exercise to try and sell it first, or is it better to try and just demolish?
My understanding is that it is, the inside, you're right, is a little rough. Fire has stripped it down even further just to kind of clean it up and whatnot. My understanding, it is structurally sound. So the structure itself does have value structurally. Now, is that enough value to warrant someone moving it or not? I don't know. Even if we can sell it for, say, $1, if someone picks it up, takes it away, it saves us the tippage fees afterwards. So even if we don't get a lot of money for it, it saves us on tippage. We're not going to do like a big campaign to sell it. We'll throw it on a local classified site of some sort, offer it up for 2 weeks, and then if no one bites, then we'll move on. I know the GOA and Beechwood had troubles with people backing out afterwards when they realized how expensive it is to move a structure. But we're going to give it a go. It might save us some money. We're not going to put a huge amount of effort into trying to sell it. Like I said, it will be just a simple posting. If someone is interested, we'll work with them. If not, we'll move on with demo.
I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that council direct administration to dispose of the structures at 546004 88th Street East in accordance with the disposal of assets and surplus supplies, FIN POL 103.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Riley.
Thank you.
High River Performing Arts Foundation fee-for-service agreement renewal. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Before you today is a renewal of a 4-year agreement with the High River Performing Arts Foundation under our community support group support policy that council adopted last year. This fee-for-service arrangement funds several of their operational events that are free to the public, and I need to stress that. Everything is free to the public, and includes the summer concert series, the annual cultural days, the public open air gallery at the venue site, the annual community reconciliation event, provision of the downtown community piano, and then Sunday performances within George Lane Park as well. Overall, council assigned a 6-month trial period with them back in June of 2023. They performed well. They've submitted their annual report as well as their financials, and their expenses have been appropriately used for the functions that they promised that they would deliver to council. So the recommendation that's before you today is to award them a 4-year term contract based upon the rates that are set out within our policy, and execute that with them as soon as we possibly can so that they can get going on 2024 planning and the future. Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Kinghorn?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'm in favor of this and will support it, but I do ask, with respect to that town piano, they've got it actually inside their area there, so it's not quite as accessible as it used to be when it was outside of Carlson's and out on the street, and it was kind of fun to see people walking down the street go over and sit down and play the piano. Some were really good, some were like me, pretty terrible, but at least we had some activity around it. With it inside that little area, it kind of keeps distances it from the public, which was not the original intent of that piano. So if they could look at doing something with that, that would even make me happy dance.
Mayor Snodgrass through to Councillor Kinghorn will make that request.
Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. This then replaces the annual application through CVAC. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council approve a 4-year fee-for-service agreement with the High River Performing Arts Foundation as outlined in the community's group support policy, and that the mayor and CAO be authorized to execute the fee-for-service agreement.
Be happy to give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor? Carried. Next one, Chris, Community Development Value Statement.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. So this is the fluffy part of the agenda. So this is, as Michael would quote, or Councillor Nychuk would say. So this value statement has been talked about for the last 18 months or so, since or longer, since council was kind of elected to kind of outline our role in business attraction, and it's a soft way of saying economic development. And what was clear through our priority setting sessions was that council did not want to necessarily take a very active role in marketing, branding, or economic development initiatives that attract businesses to the community, but they wanted to invest in what is already here and making sure that if we are a people-first community, that we're investing in both our existing businesses as well as things that attract our public to take part in our downtown spaces and our commercial spaces through events and other initiatives from that perspective. So while this is kind of a soft approach, it is a non-committal approach that also outlines, how we're going to be supportive and investing in things that make sense and logic when the time is right. So, for example, making sure that our events are taking place downtown, and events that are focused on our businesses and also benefiting our residents so that they can have fun. If it draws people from outside, then that's a benefit to everybody. So those are the types of things that are built within the action plan, as well as how the policy statement reads from that perspective. And it is just a value statement. And every term, it will need to be reviewed by the incoming council to either keep it, change it, or get rid of it. So I know it's a little bit soft, But it is intended that way to kind of reflect that people first attitude. And we have reviewed it at 2 different priority setting sessions and gone through it. It just kind of made its way to the agenda now. So I'm just going through that process. So that's kind of the basis of what the value statement actually is. It's kind of reflecting that, we are not going to be doing branding strategies. We're not going to be doing economic development strategies. We are focused on investing in things that make sense for us and make sense for the people that are here and the businesses that are here today. Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Will this fall under the umbrella of our events coordinator, Heather Ross?
Some of it will be, and some of it will also fall within our community development liaison, as well as within our planning department.
Thank you.
Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. And to the comment about soft, Chris, it's soft in detail because we view it as an economic statement or directive. Economics tend to be very line by line item, strategic driven, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is an economic initiative in the way it's constructed. When you talk about us looking after the community and looking after the events and the businesses and the people that are here right now, we're investing in our own backyard, so to speak. We are investing in the events like Councillor Kinghorn's and the balloon event that draw people here to draw that economic activity that will come. It's not a poised initiative to go out and find the next pizza place to move to High River. It is to create an environment of activity that will foster those types of things to come. So I just wanted to speak up because I didn't want you to think I had a negative take on this. I just thought that some of the comment that might come back to us is that it wasn't detailed as far as an economic statement goes, but it very much goes along with the desire of what council thinks and feels about our community and how we want to grow it. So thank you for that.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. And further to my Councillor Nychuk, I think, I would also echo that it's an attraction through action plan that, people see what we're doing and it becomes attractive to be part of what we're doing, as opposed to going out there and trying to draw people in through other means. This is showcasing what we have here and how we build on that. So I do think that it does open the door for further opportunity for people to come into High River, but it certainly does it by attraction. So, thank you.
Councillor Barton.
I like this because some of the programs and things that we've already been doing as a town have already fit into this framework. And a good example, this is just one example of quite a few, is from a town's perspective, we actually put on, I don't know if everybody saw the ice sculptures this weekend, and I had a couple opportunities to go visit it, and the second time I was there on Saturday night at about 5 o'clock, it was busy, and it actually started leveraging a lot of discussion around that group, around the ropes and that were there, about how this is affecting our town, how it is actually, we can leverage it for other things. And then the discussion happened between council and, committee of the whole and council meeting here this afternoon, just kind of off the cuff, where stuff like this that the town is actually putting together is helping spur other ideas that community groups can put together. And I'm fully in support of this. This is awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council adopt the Community Development Value Statement Policy and the Community Development Action Work Program as presented.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any councillor reports? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I just wanted to acquaint council. I have my new tenure on the West Winds Board, attended their day-long board retreat on January 26th. And as a result, I would like to request that we invite West Winds to provide us with an update on some of their findings in our community with regards to vacancy rates and understanding the snapshot of housing needs within our community right now, as I think through the last little while with inflation, et cetera, that there has been a shift in terms of affordability and market housing, below market housing. So I think if we could kindly ask administration to invite the West Winds folks to give us a presentation, just an update on where things are at, I think we would all benefit from that information. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Anyone else? Any board and committee reports? Nothing. Shepherd Family Park Society meeting minutes are attached. Any public comments following me? Carol?
Just a couple of questions about the budget that kind of came to my mind. And it kind of reminded me with the Performing Arts Foundation, is where can I find the information about the funding for community groups in the budget?
Chris?
So it's a specific line item under grants, and most are within our grant program. So that would include the funding for the Balloon Glow, for the Shepherd Family Park. So it'd be one large lump sum within the budget from that perspective. And I can't recall exactly about it, but I can get you that information, Carol.
Okay, Chris, because I guess for transparency reasons, why I'm a little bit confused, I personally liked it when it was, you could look and say, okay, here's Shepherd Family Park, here's a museum, just putting myself in even their shoes to see comparatively what the funding is. I just don't understand why it's in one big lump sum.
Well, that's within the budget on the line item. Within the policy, it's detailed specifically in how the funding is structured. So if you take a look at the actual community support group policy, it's got a 4-year plan associated with it that talks about how the funding formula is established and what each group will get from year to year.
Okay. And I guess along this line, when I attended the budget meetings, the financial manager said that there was a virtual finance binder, and I haven't been able to locate that. And even when I checked on it, because it would have been very handy to have that prior to the budget being voted on. And then when I went on the website today, it says to be coming soon. And I just think, a lot of people can't attend the meetings, and it would be nice to know about budget in advance, right?
Find out why that wasn't posted.
Yeah, and I've been checking because for the members of council that know me, I much prefer the visual to see versus like even, online, so.
Thank you, Carol.
And then another question that kind of came to my mind when I was looking at the strategic priorities chart is and this also came up at the draft town plan focus presentation, that doctor retention and attraction. And I'm just kind of querying, why is that a responsibility of the municipality and not more like Alberta Health Services or the Alberta Medical Association?
May I? Because if I felt that it's more the responsibility of the Alberta government, the provincial government, which is failing us at this point in time with doctors. That's across the province, period. So yes, we have weighed in as to what we can do as the town of High River to create an attractive place for doctors to locate. There's a lot of things in play to do that. One of the biggest ones, of course, we've done is purchase the Charles Clark Medical Center. We own that outright now. So, and that was a very big piece that we work directly with our existing doctors and the physicians that have that place, that we now have a little bit more control as to what the environment looks like for doctors that are looking to locate here and what we can offer in the town of High River. So it's absolutely a huge piece that every municipality in this province should start paying attention to, because our Alberta government is absolutely failing us miserably on keeping our doctors here, rurally especially.
But you're not incentivizing.
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
Not like some communities are, where they're, some communities, I don't know if it's happening in Alberta yet, but in BC, where the municipality is purchasing a building like Charles Clark and offering them free rent.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And kind of just, you kind of planted a seed at the draft town plan thing. I noticed that there's talk about, like in one of the literature, about like an aging dementia care center. Is that kind of thinking about in Charles Clark Park Medical Center?
oh no, that would
Okay.
be a huge standalone facility.
Well, that's what I was figuring,
That's
yeah.
a long dream. Yeah, that wouldn't be able to be held in. That would be a very big facility and would require the majority of that project to be funded by the provincial government if they got on board with it. But we haven't. That's just spitballing ideas around
Right.
right now. It's been talked about for a long time, but
And then capacity of Charles Clark Park. How many doctors short are we?
how many doctors short are we in High River right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that I could give you that number right now. I know there's people that are struggling to find a doctor in High River that will take patients.
Yeah.
I know there's doctors that are way over capacity in trying to keep people in having a doctor, because we've had a number of doctors in the last, 3-4 years now that have passed away, retired, or left.
Right.
So.
Okay. And then another budget question that just kind of popped. When you had your first of all, I wanted to thank you very much for moving the budget meetings up to here, the committee of the whole one, so that they could be live streamed, so thank you. At that first meeting, though, that was in the basement, there was a mention about the development of UN camera for the employee compensation package. And at that time, the COLA was at 4%. Did that stay at 4%? Because the manager of finance said it possibly might have changed after the decision about that. So did it stay at 4%?
It remained at 4%.
Okay. And then just thinking about the tax implication, I went back into some documentation because when I was on West Winds, their requisition would come out quite quickly for budget. And sure enough, January 8th, the letter was there with a $267,000 ask for their requisition. So is that being put into the 3.3% tax increase, or is that going to be in addition?
The requisitions from outside agencies is in addition to it.
And so how will we find out what the final tax increase will be? Is that going to be online, or?
That will be when you see your tax bill, because we won't get those requisitions like the provincial requisitions won't come in just before we start preparing tax bills.
Okay, because I know West Wind's deadline to receive the money is March 31st.
So the province, we won't see that until their budget's established, which is another couple weeks away.
Okay. And so, yeah, I just want to double check. I had a little list, sorry. Right. Okay, no, thanks. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Carol. Anyone else? Council correspondence requiring action. Foothills Connect's 14th Annual Gala. I think we did this last year, the last few years, correct? That's for a motion from Councillor Smith, that council authorize administration to donate to the Foothills Connects for the 14th Annual Gala event in the amount of $500 for the Diamond sponsor.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Jones, question?
I just need to recuse myself from voting on this for conflict of interest, please.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Epilepsy Association of Calgary proclamation request. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council proclaim March 1st to 31st, 2024 as Epilepsy Awareness Month, and that council authorize the mayor to sign the Town of High River Epilepsy Awareness Month proclamation.
Yeah, my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Alberta Cowboy Poetry Association letter of support. So this letter has actually already been signed and delivered because they brought it to us at about the 11.9 hour before they had to have it sat. So we had to rush on this one to make sure these guys were taken care of. So that's for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council approved the mayor to sign the confirmation of support to the Department of Canadian Heritage for the Alberta Cowboy Poetry Association's Trails End Gathering Festival prior to the council meeting.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Council correspondence. There's some Rimrock Tidewater stuff, the Salvation Army. Request for moratorium on logging in southern Alberta, and correspondence from Marigold Library System. At this time, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council recess the regular council meeting on February 12th at 4:17 p.m. and move into a closed meeting.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. 421. All in favor? Carried.
Two motions.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council appoint Derek Zimmer to the Assessment Review Board and the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board and the Community Vitality Advisory Committee with term ending dates of October 31st, 2026, and the council direct administration to advertise openings for the remaining vacancies on the Town of High River boards and committees and return to council at a future date with recommendations.
You have my motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Carried. Meeting adjourned 4:23.